fine. I'll admit it, folks. I was wrong about Epic Universe, okay? Listen, as an individual who has been hyped and excited about Epic Universe for quite literally years leading up to its opening, of course, you put a microphone in front of me, I'm going to talk my pretty little head off about the park, and Lord knows I did that over the last few years. And it really shouldn't come as much of a shock that when you do go ahead and talk about something before you've experienced it, and in simpler terms, don't know jack about, you're bound to get things wrong. And as somebody who was fervent about avoiding spoilers leading up to their first visit to be able to go in and experience as many shocks and surprises as possible, well, yeah, it's no surprise that the park left me absolutely flabbergasted, with my jaw on the floor, in many cases defying what I had previously believed about the park and ultimately what I had spread as truthful information or based my takes on. And before I go ahead and tear myself down to shreds, allow me to boost my ego here a little bit. I think as somebody in this community who does talk about these theme parks, I do think that my words hold some sort of value, hold some sort of weight. So I do think that I have an obligation and responsibility to go ahead and retract and backtrack any statements that I made that were completely and utterly false. Therefore, before anyone else visits this park in the future, they go ahead and have the right expectations and not based on opinions that were made before the park even opened. And for starters here, folks, one take that I had that sort of already spurred up a whole lot of controversy when I first made it was the fact that I had sort of believed that Epic Universe's food lineup was going to be revolutionary in the world of theme parks. And many people at the time called me out and said, how can you go ahead and say any of this before anyone's tried the food, before the menus have been confirmed, and before the park is even open? That's an absurd statement to make, and honestly, completely valid points. But you want to know what? My crystal ball was clearer than ever that day because I was spot on with that take. The food in this park is not only of an obscenely high level, more so than we've ever seen, perhaps in any theme park other than maybe Epcot, and the variety here is on a shocking level. I mean, there's some things here that you can get that you would never expect to be able to get in a theme park. Nonetheless, at a quick service restaurant, some of the stuff on the menu at the quick service restaurants, meals that you can get in a rather quick fashion, are just not sold quick service anywhere else in the world, let alone in North America. So the food is great, make no mistake about it, but there was one caveat that I sort of pointed out in that initial video. There was one restaurant at Epic Universe that I put a shadow of doubt on, that I said, I don't actually think this is gonna be all that good. And that restaurant that I said, you know what, that's the exception from the rule. I said that Pizza Moon was likely not going to be good. Now, why did I pick on Pizza Moon? Well, folks, the simple truth is that theme parks have never gotten pizza right, ever. Go literally anywhere, at any theme park across the entire country, across the entire globe, you will be hard-pressed to find good pizza. Heck, you'll be hard-pressed to find palatable pizza. Most of the time, it's hot garbage. It is literally the equivalent of cardboard with some ketchup on top. Basically, that's what it amounts to most of the time. It's truly disgusting. And even though I have to say Universal has probably provided the best theme park pizza I've ever had up to this point at Louis over in Universal Studios Florida, even though, to be quite frank, that's not really good either. It's still subpar. I had no faith whatsoever that all the techniques and all the effort and all the money spent by Universal to improve the food quality at Epic Universe, I just didn't think it was ever going to actually be able to fix the quote-unquote theme park pizza pandemic. And yet, here we are, folks, me saying I was wrong. I was wrong about Pizza Moon because, listen, folks, the first time I visited this park was on opening day. It was perhaps one of the greatest theme park days in history. Universal capped the attendance of the park that day. They limited capacity. And I walked on to dang near everything. It was a wonderful day. I mean, by 10:30, I literally had done everything except for Battle of the Ministry. Literally. So, at this point, I'm going to get lunch, and I'm like, all right, this day has been too good. I need a dose of reality. So I say, I'm going to go to Pizza Moon, and surely the food is going to be awful, and that's going to bring me down to the earth and bring me back to reality. But, folks, let me tell you, that day just kept getting better because the pizza there blew my mind. It literally blew my mind. I'm actually shocked. Not only was it palatable, it was actually enjoyable. It was an above average pizza. Sure, I mean, compared to a slice you're going to get in New York and New Jersey, I mean, it's nothing like that. But folks, I mean, it's pretty much better than anything you're going to get outside the park in Florida, by and large. I mean, really, it's right up there. I don't know what they did. I don't know what the secret formula is. I don't know how they figured this out. But by God, Pizza Moon has solved the theme park pizza problem. And I couldn't be happier for it. Plus, it's honestly a great bang for your buck. These are large personal pizzas, easily big enough to share. I mean, honestly, dude, it's a win. Pizza Moon is such a win. I can't even believe I doubted it to begin with. I will proudly say that I was wrong about that, and I'm ashamed that I ever put any sort of doubt on its name. But, even though I did say earlier that I was correct in the statement of saying that Epic Universe has revolutionary theme park food, here's the fact of the matter. Not all food at this park is great, or is pushing theme park food forward in any sort of meaningful fashion. In fact, I think there's actually at least one menu item that's actively pushing theme park food backwards. And I can't even believe I'm saying this. This is like political suicide, what I'm about to do. This is going to have my head on a stake, my face on wanted posters. But folks, there is one piece of food that I have tried so far at Epic Universe that not only do I find it to not be particularly good, do I not find it to be particularly filling, but I find it to be, quite frankly, a scam for the price that it is listed at. And, oh my God, please don't just... Actually, you know what? Feel free to crucify me in the comments. I completely understand I'm a minority on this, but folks, the mac and cheese cones are not it. Okay, calm down. All right, I know. It's like everyone's favorite snack at Epic Universe. I mean, heck, when I was just looking at footage to put in this video, every single video about the mac and cheese cones is calling it the greatest thing since sliced bread. But here's the fact for you folks. It's not the greatest thing since sliced bread because it literally is just bread. Literally 90% of this thing is bread, and you don't get that much mac and cheese or any of the other toppings that are on there. And really, it feels like you're just eating a loaf of bread with a bit of cheese and some pasta in there, right? I mean, that's really it. Now, in all fairness, it is my understanding that during previews, these things were actually stuffed to the gills and were giving you pretty good value as far as what you were getting inside that cone. But since opening day, they've tremendously skimped out on the amount of content that is going into that bread cone. So you're really just walking away with a loaf of bread nowadays. Not to mention that it's a pain to eat. It's not easy to eat. Do you just eat the cone regular? Do you eat it with a fork? Either way, it's a pain, and you're probably going to spill stuff all over the place. It's incredibly messy. But folks, the reason why I call this a scam is not necessarily because it's not particularly filling or doesn't have that much of actual content to it and it's 90% bread. It's really because of the price. The price is ridiculous on this thing. I mean, I've praised Universal in the past for getting high-end snack prices correct. Look at Central Park crepes. That price tag for a snack is perfect, right? It's lower than a typical meal, but honestly, you're still getting what could be considered a full meal's worth of food. Same could be said in a similar fashion to green eggs and ham, right? These are two perfect high-end snack options. And realistically, these mac and cheese cones should fall into that same category. And yet, the price does not reflect that. For the base classic mac and cheese cone, it is $17. For the ones that have some extra stuff on them, have some meat on the bone, guess what? Those are $18. That is the same price as many full-on meals at the quick service restaurants throughout this park. Heck, that's the same price as a full-on giant personal pizza over at Pizza Moon. Like, it's actually insane. And the reason why these prices have gone so out of control, because during previews, it actually was priced more like Green Eggs and Ham or Central Park Crepes, and it was much more in line with that. But the influencers went ahead and said, oh my God, this thing's amazing, you gotta try it. And then all of a sudden, everyone starts going there. Everyone starts going there saying, oh yeah, I gotta try it. And what does Universal do? They say, oh man, people really like this. Guess we can charge more for it. And now, all of a sudden, you're paying $20 for a loaf of bread. And listen, folks, if me saying that that's a joke deserves to put me in the theme park gulag, then by all means, send me on my way, put me in chains. I'll gladly go with a smile, because I'm sorry, the mac and cheese cones are the biggest theme park scam that honestly I've ever actually personally felt. And no, that's saying something given the fact that pretty much 90% of things at theme parks are overpriced and could be considered to be scams. That is the biggest scam I've ever actually felt. But you know what, folks? Don't leave now, because, hey, I'm just getting started here. There are plenty of other things that I was wrong about, and I'm about to make an absolute fool out of myself for, even admitting, so here we go. Over the past year or so, I've made a lot of claims about what the crowds would look like at Epic Universe, and my belief was pretty much that at least for the first month and a half, this park was going to be absolutely mobbed. It was going to be basically more or less selling out every single day, and it was going to be more or less a madhouse. But me, alongside pretty much everyone else and their mother, had no anticipation that Universal was going to have some foresight here and limit capacity in the first, couple weeks or so. And listen, folks, as somebody who went on opening day, I could not be more happy to be wrong, because wow, what a day. I mentioned it earlier. That day might be one of the best theme park days I've ever had. I did so much. I already talked about how I did everything, all of the rides, before 10:30, with the exception of Battle at the Ministry, as that did not open until later in the day. But folks, I did 25 rides that day, and both sit-down shows. I mean, you just can't beat it, folks. That day is going to be hard to beat. And honestly, as far as the crowds go, that is probably the deadest day Epic Universe will ever have in its history. And I got to give Universal a lot of props for, letting the people who were going to be basically willing to die on the sword to support this park on opening day, knowing full well it probably was going to be a disaster had Universal sold it out to the gills. So for Universal to go ahead and cap capacity to make it, not only a good, presentable day for them, but really make it a great day for those who did visit, I got to give my cap and tip it to them. So I fully appreciate that. That was really awesome. So, yes, I was wrong about that, but that one doesn't really pain me at all. In fact, I'm actually quite happy I was wrong about that. One that I am sad to be wrong about and really feel like I need to sort of clarify on is that, I did make a video talking about how the entertainment at Epic Universe was going to be sort of on the next level, similar to what I said about the food. And I think by and large, this is true. The meet and greets are incredible. The Toothless meet and greet, I think, is exceeding everyone's expectations. The shows, well, the How to Train Your Dragon show, the Untrainable Dragon, it's great. It's a slam dunk show. The moment where Toothless, I was called him How to Train Your Dragon, the moment when Toothless is flying over the crowd is always a win. Even if you've seen it 1,000 times, you can't help but crack a smile because the whole audience goes nuts when it happens. So, that show is a winner in my book for sure. However, the other sit-down show, Cirque Arcanus, the Harry Potter show, the show that arguably in that video I hyped up the most, I was wrong about. You see, folks, I claimed that this show was going to be the most technologically advanced show that we have ever seen, perhaps at any theme park ever. And I think this might still be true. Kind of hard to say, somebody standing out in the audience and not actually behind the curtain. But yeah, it's very technologically advanced. I don't think I was wrong about that. However, I made sort of an assumption and a statement / belief that because this was the first ever sit-down Harry Potter show, that Universal was going to pull out all the stops, and this was going to be an absurd sort of show masterpiece on a level we've never seen before. That was basically my assumption, was that people were sleeping on this show, and that because it's Harry Potter, it has to live up to a certain standard, and as a result, Universal is going to deliver. And I mean, listen, I mean, this show does have a pre-show, in a sense. I mean, it's basically an extension of the show itself, but from the pre-show, I mean, you really do feel like this is going to be something special. There's some cool sort of visual effects going on here, and I mean, the setting up of the storyline here and the development of the characters in the pre-show is exceptionally good. But once you set foot into the actual theater and sit down, that's when things kind of go off the rails. The storyline all of a sudden becomes unclear, it becomes unfocused, it seems to take a ton of different tangents and sidesteps that aren't relevant to the plot that we just established in the pre-show. And to be quite frank, a lot of the technical stuff that's going on here, a lot of the stunts, a lot of the effects, I'm sure are incredibly complex and impressive from a technological standpoint, but as an audience member, I could not find many of them to be super visually stunning or impressive. I mean, it definitely didn't help either that the pacing was rather poor. Some things went on for far too long. Some things happened way too quickly, and this kind of resulted in some boring and honestly somewhat confusing moments. Though I will say the show does take a turn for the better once we do actually enter Newt Scamander's suitcase. That moment, that reveal is awesome, though I will say the first time I watched the show broke down during that scene, so, you know, it was a little awkward, but obviously, I mean, that was on opening day, so I fully forgive them and expect that stuff is gonna happen, and obviously that effect of the whole stage sort of lifting up to reveal another stage below it is obviously incredibly impressive. That's easily enough, probably the most impressive thing technologically that's going on here. But the puppets and animatronics for the Fantastic Beasts are all awesome. They're all beautiful. They're all wonderfully animated. So, you know, that scene towards the end of the show is great. Though I will say, you know, once the storyline kind of gets back on track with the ringmaster trying to take control of these guys, even though up to this point, the ringmaster hasn't done jack diddly squat and just kind of made these grand statements about, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to make my show amazing, only for him to never do any of that and just keep saying he's going to do it, only for him to just get absolutely thwarted at the end of the show in the most anticlimactic and sort of abrupt ending that a show maybe has ever had. It seems like this was a show where Universal had a ton of grand ambitions and wanted to feature some pretty complex and complicated sort of scenery and characters on a much grander scale, but ultimately once they actually started putting the pieces together, they realized, oh, that's going to be far too complex, that's going to be far too expensive. I mean, we already talked about how the show broke down when I watched it. Lord knows if they tried to use all of these features and effects more or had added more to the pie, that there'd probably be even more of a chance of a show like this breaking down. So I completely understand where things went wrong. I'm not faulting them for that, but I'm just saying that because of this grand ambition to do something special and sort of being left with some disjointed pieces at the end of the day, it doesn't quite make for the greatest piece of the pie. Now, maybe there's a chance that over time they can sort of refine this, work on the pacing, add some more effects that aren't going to be, you know, sort of fail points for it, and maybe it can be an actual great show. But as of right now, I do find it to be somewhat a middling show as far as theme park shows go, and you know, that does not live up to at all the expectations that I laid forth and I claimed the show was going to live up to in that original video. So I'm sorry, and I was wrong. And that brings me to my last error, my last misstep, at least the last one that I feel is worth mentioning. I'm sure I've made many other mistakes and I've said many incorrect things about Epic Universe, but this one takes the cake, folks. This one I'm actually embarrassed about. I'm ashamed that I made this statement and I made this claim and I took this stance on top of the hill shouting proudly that Curse of the Werewolf was the sleeper hit of Epic Universe. What an idiot. Are you stupid? Not only is this ride not a sleeper hit, it actually sucks. It's not just bad, it's hilariously bad. And somehow I had the gall to think that this ride was going to be not only good, but potentially great. Oh my God, what is wrong with me? And here's the worst part about this, folks, that this wasn't a take that was buried in some larger video. No, I was so confident in this take, I literally made a whole video dedicated to it, and it got over 50,000 views. Oh my God, I spread false information and fake news to 50,000 people. Holy cow, I'm the biggest buffoon in the theme park space. Because here's the thing, folks. I made the assumption, or at least had the belief, based on what I had seen and what I had read about Curse of the Werewolf, albeit while still avoiding spoilers, as, was sort of my MO at the time. And I had the belief that Curse of the Werewolf was going to be derivative or inspired by Hagrid over at Islands of Adventure, and that this was going to be the follow-up to that attraction, that Epic Universe was going to go ahead and take everything that was learned and used in Hagrid and apply it to Curse of the Werewolf. Oh my God. How wrong I was, folks, because no, Curse of the Werewolf is not derivative of Hagrid. In fact, actually, the ride that is clearly derivative of Hagrid's, if you've ridden it, is Hiccup's Wing Gliders over in How to Train Your Dragon, and that's actually a pretty great ride. So, I was onto something there that if you make, a different kind of version of Hagrid, you could be successful, no duh. But Curse of the Werewolf is not that, and quite frankly, I should have realized that. This ride is about, carry the zero, about 5 seconds long, and about, about zero happens in it. And, basically nothing happens. The only thing that really happens is that you go through this shed with the werewolves in it, and that's an exciting moment if you're not facing sideways and aren't facing the werewolves, which, because of the one gimmick that this ride has, which is that it's a spinning roller coaster, even though it barely spins, it just so happens that occasionally it will lock you into place being sideways, going through the one interesting part of this ride, so you can't even see the werewolves. And the rest of this ride, completely unthemed, nothing to see, no interesting sights, nothing like that. Right, there's some sound effects, okay, cool. And I will give it some credit, the only actual thrilling part of this ride is at the very end. Oddly enough, not with the launches, but is at the very end of the ride, where you actually pull some decent positive G's, which is interesting, but honestly, that kind of just sours your mood even more, because it's towards the end of the ride, and you're just like, really, that was it? Oh my God, that was bad? And then oh my God, the cherry on top, or I should say, the pile of dog poo on top of this is the very end. Because you see, folks, a lot of us had the assumption that there was this, big building at the end. Before you actually get to the exit station, there was a belief that, there's going to be some dark ride element at the end of this ride. Maybe a giant animatronic, maybe a few animatronics, some lighting effects, some special effects, something to send you home with a smile on your face and saying, wow, that ride was good. No, folks, you get a mannequin and a printed out billboard that is so poorly printed, you can literally see the pixels on the art. I mean, dude, this is Six Flags level. Heck, there are some Six Flags rides that do a better job of theming than this. I mean, it's actually embarrassing. And I understand, I praised Universal already for not, implementing too many budget cuts in this park, but this is probably a ride that did face the sword of the budget cuts. But honestly, that's okay, because the rest of the ride sucks anyway, so even if you had a great dark ride element here, it'd be wasted, honestly. So I don't even care. Yeah, make the whole ride suck while you're at it, whatever. And so this is made not only bad by the fact that I said that a bad ride was going to be good. No, I said that a horrible ride, perhaps the worst ride at the park, was going to be a great ride. Wow. I wouldn't trust a single thing I say ever again. All right? That's just it, folks. I'm a joke. And if you want to hear what this joke has to think about Epic Universe as a whole, my proper review, go ahead and click the video on your screen right now, and I'll see y'all next time. Hopefully I'll see you next time. Peace.